Hey everybody, it's Jason from the Texas Gun Vault, and once again I'm coming to you with another range report. Today's range report is on an awesome firearm, one that is very similar to one that I personally own and have reviewed as well. This is the Sig MPX K, and of course K is short for Kurz, which is German for short. So this is Sig Sauer's competition to the Hk MP5. So it is a 9mm subgun. Now, of course, this being a civilian version, it is only semi-automatic, and in this configuration, it is a pistol. However, I do have my own personal MPX here. Both of these are Generation 2s. This is my full-size one. It's one of the early Gen 2s because it has the key mod rail versus the modern M-LOK rail. And yes, this one is SBR. This one is my personal MPX, so I have the telescoping stock and the vertical foregrip. And I'm going to compare and contrast these two a little bit more in this video. But today's video is on the MPX K, obviously shorter and more compact. But before we get into the things that I like and don't like about this gun and comparing it to its bigger brother, I want to thank the people that always make these videos possible. First and foremost is the person that lent this to the channel, a good friend and local subscriber named D. He just wants me to use his first initial, so thank you so much, D. I also want to thank my Patreons as always, because through their monthly donation and support, they help keep the lights on around here by helping me purchase equipment to keep this content coming. And as always, my primary sponsor who provides all of the ammunition for these range reports, thus making them financially feasible, my good friend Mark from Brownworks. And yes, it's that time in the range report where I tell you about how awesome Brownworks is. If you guys don't know, and this is your first Texas Gun Vault video, Brownworks is a great company. Mark over there is an artist. He makes custom wood grips for a wide variety of firearms out of a wide variety of exotic woods and materials. He can put on custom logos and engravings. He makes grips for guns like the Colt 1911 and all the variations thereof, Beretta 92s, full-size compacts, and even the entire CZ line of pistols, just to name a few. Of course, he makes grips for a lot more than that. And as I mentioned, he can put on custom logos and engravings. He is always working on new product lines and new finishes and new colors. I have seen so many of his grips in person, and I know many of my local subscribers that I meet and see on a daily basis have bought grips from him, and they are so satisfied not only with his craftsmanship but also his customer service. He also provides a different product also if you are not in the market for grips, such as laser engraving magazines for modern sporting rifles, which is probably why you're here, because you like the Sig MPX. So you probably have a few AR-15s or AK-47s. Well, he can custom engrave logos like the Texas Gun Vault logo, if you really wanted to be geeky, and run it on your AK and AR. He also offers engraving on 1911 magazines as well. So I'm going to put a link in the description and as a pinned comment over to Brownworks. Please go over there, check out what he has to offer. If you don't find what you're looking for, make sure to contact Mark. I guarantee you that he will hook you up with what you want and what you need. And when you do, tell him the Texas Gun Vault sent you. All right, so let's talk about what this gun is. As I've already mentioned, this is the Sig MPX K pistol. Now, this is supposed to be the Generation 2. As far as I know, there is only 2 generations of the MPX. However, it is my understanding that there is a 3rd generation of the magazines. And the biggest difference between the guns and the generation is the feed lips and the magazines and how the rounds feed out of them. There's supposed to be some part interchangeability between there, but if you have a Generation 2 gun, you're supposed to run Generation 2 or Generation 3 magazines. And I know some of you guys are going to ask, how can I tell which magazine is which? Well, a Generation 2 magazine is going to have a brown or tan follower, where the Generation 1s have a black follower. So that is an easy indication. So what else about this gun makes it special? Well, I think this is supposed to be, based on the name and the design, it really is supposed to be Sig's competition to the Hk MP5. So it's not just a direct blowback. Of course, the Hk MP5 uses a roller delayed system. Well, Sig uses a rotating bolt system, just like an AR-15. So it has a little gas piston system up here, a little tiny gas block, and that little piston drives that bolt carrier back. It has a rotating bolt, and thus it has less recoil because it has that locking mechanism. It also makes the gun run a little bit cleaner and more reliable. The last thing I should tell you before I get into this review is that this gun is not 100% stock. The owner of this firearm, D, has changed two things out. One is going to be the trigger. Here we have a Timony trigger in it. It is, of course, a flat face trigger, as you can see. You guys know that I am not a fan of the flat face triggers, but I am not going to judge this gun based off of this trigger because it has been changed out. And he has also added the Terran Tactical followers, which give you a few extra rounds in the magazine. But everything else to this gun is stock Sig. All right, so let's go ahead and talk about the things that I like and don't like. And man, oh man, is there a ton of things about this gun that I like. First and foremost, it's a Sig, and it has Sig quality. I've been reviewing a lot of Sigs recently, and I'm telling you, they make some of the best guns out there on the market. This gun is also my favorite type of gun. This is a sub gun. Well, a semi-automatic version of a submachine gun. I love pistol caliber carbines. I have just always been fascinated by them and always liked them. Are they the best type of gun for self-defense or CQB? Well, maybe not. Some people say the era of the submachine gun is over, but man, do I love sub guns. It's just the type of gun that I find to be a lot of fun to shoot. I shoot them well, and I just think that they're cool. I've already told you this gun uses a rotating bolt, very similar to that of an AR-15. I am fascinated by the mechanisms of guns and how they work. I love the fact that this gun shares a lot of the manual of arms of an AR-15, so all of the controls, the bolt release, the bolt catch, all of that is in the same spots that you would normally be used to on an AR-15, so moving over from one platform to the other is relatively simple. The other things I really like about this are the mounting system, not only for accessories in the front, but also the stock in the back. Now, as I've already shown you, I have an early Generation 2 MPX full size that uses key mod. Now, I bought this back in the day when Sig only offered the key mod, and that was one of the upgrades to the Generation 2. And at that time, the war between Keymod and M-LOK was in full force. And I guess Sig had initially bet on Keymod being the wave of the future, and they were wrong. They obviously now offer these in M-LOK. I don't even know if they offer the Keymod ones anymore anyway, but I've just kept the original one on. I like the look of it. If I was ever going to upgrade it, I would buy one of the M-LOK ones, but you can buy them in either M-LOK or Keymod. Maybe you can find an older one. And of course, that allows you to put on accessories like lights, Picatinny rail, vertical foregrips, if this would be SBR'd. You also have a piece of Picatinny rail vertically here in the back, which allows you to put on a number of different types of stocks. Here we have a folding pistol brace. Of course, if this was an SBR, you could also have a stock on this as well. And on mine, we have the telescoping option as well, which I think looks really, really cool. Very much like an MP5. So I love how this thing works and how it looks, but these are all interchangeable depending on what your style and preferences are. All right, so let's talk about the things maybe I don't like. And the first thing is actually what this whole review is about. This is the K model. It's short. You guys know I love these guns, especially guns like B&Ts, and I've said that sometimes these K models can actually get a little bit too short. The idea of the K model is to make an even more compact version of a compact gun, possibly for PDW or a personal defense weapon. My only concern with a gun getting so short is where are you going to put your non-shooting hand? If you don't do the magwell grip, well, these rails are really kind of short, and I'm always really scared about putting my hand so close to the muzzle. I kind of find that to be a little bit dangerous. I just always have to make sure on these PDW style or the K style, I gotta do the magwell hold. It's not my favorite, but it definitely works. Gets my hands away from the muzzle, but sometimes I kind of feel like these just might be a little bit too short. Another thing I've noticed about this gun is that sometimes if you don't charge the gun strongly by pulling this charging handle back, just like an AR-15, and letting it go pretty strong, if you kind of slightly release it softly, the bolt doesn't always go back into battery. Well, it has a rotating bolt, but it doesn't have a forward assist. So maybe if there is an internal problem with ammunition, you don't have that forward assist. And I know some people say you don't need a forward assist on a gun like an AR-15. You might need it on this gun, but I think for the most part, you can push that charging handle forward and the gun will go back in battery. You just have to know how that works. Finally, we do have a charging handle. One thing I really love about the MP5 is it has that left-handed charging handle way out here out front. Your non-shooting hand can manipulate that. Here you have to take the gun away from your face to manipulate this charging handle, just like an AR-15. I just wish that they would have emulated many other subguns, whether they have a side charger or something up here on the front as well. I just find that to be a little bit more ergonomic with a gun like a pistol caliber carbine, submachine gun, or subgun. And I guess if I have to be real picky, there is one more thing about this gun that I don't like, and that is this brace. And yes, as a pistol, you can only have a brace on this. However, this SIG designed brace can move around a little bit too easy. I kind of wish it was able to be locked in the downward position. So if you were going to use it actually like the brace is designed for, it'd be a little bit more ergonomic. But if you're going to shoulder this, which by the way, as of me filming this video, it is completely legal to do, it can actually rotate a little bit. I don't like that at all. It's just one of the downsides of having a pistol and why I always prefer to SBR my guns over having them as a pistol. I know some people will disagree. All right, so I've told you a lot about this gun, so let's get this thing to the range. I'm going to load up one of these magazines, set the target out at 10 yards. I'm just curious how this red dot is set up. I want to make sure this gun is accurate and that it's going to function. So let's put some rounds down range. All right, and as you can see, this gun is exceptionally accurate, and I know some of you are going to ask what red dot this is. This is an Aimpoint Acro. The owner of this pistol, D, has a fine taste in firearms and also a fine taste in red dots as well. So it's one of the best that you can buy, and it really matches up and mates up to this MPX K really, really well. So the recoil of this gun is definitely a little bit more than an MP5, and I'm going to tell you this right now, nothing beats an MP5's Cadillac recoil. That delayed roller system is incredible. This is pretty close though with the rotating bolt. It's really nice. It doesn't hit very hard. It's not like a direct blowback, so I think SIG did an excellent job with it. And I don't really think there's anything else on the market in a pistol caliber that has a rotating bolt like this. I could be wrong, but I find this to be very innovative. Now let's talk about that one failure to fire. We did have a light primer strike, and I think that has to do more with this aftermarket Timney trigger that's exceptionally light, so maybe that spring is not very strong and that primer was a little bit hard. So I don't think that's a stock SIG problem. I think if I had a mil-spec trigger in this, it would have worked just fine. So I'm not going to deduct any points. I'm just going to say most likely it is this aftermarket trigger. All right, so now let's go do what I call the accuracy portion. I'm going to set the target out about as far as I can at this indoor range at 25 yards. This gun has been exceptionally accurate so far, so using this red dot, I'm going to aim for the head on the silhouette. I'm expecting good results, so I'm going to load up another magazine and see how it performs.
I'm not that much more accurate with this than I am with, oh my God, with a pistol. With a pistol. I should be. It's going to be about the same.
It does look cool.
Wow. That's good, sir. Look at that.
Oh, you said CC, I thought like handgun.
Can I shoot?
I pictured like handgun. Piece.
But it's a
That's nuts. That's cool.
We started getting
but you're kind of hunched over.
And it is just as accurate at 25 yards as it is at 10 yards for me. So this thing is shooting great. I love guns like this. They're just so much fun. All right, so let's talk about that one failure I had this time. And this time, I don't think the trigger reset. So the bolt went back home. We had a live round in the chamber, but the hammer had already fell. So once again, I'm gonna blame this problem on this aftermarket Timony trigger. I'm not gonna say there's anything wrong with the MPX trigger. After all, as I said, I own one of my own, and I've never had these types of issues. That's just some of the risks that you run when you put in these aftermarket triggers, especially if they're lighter and they're polished a certain way. You might have a couple of issues with it, and that's just what I'm experiencing with this particular trigger. And this review is not about this trigger, it's about this gun. So once again, I'm not going to hold that against this gun when I think it is the trigger's fault. All right, so now let's give my wife Becky a chance to shoot this. She loves these pistol caliber carbines as much as I do. She likes my MPX, but I'm curious what she's gonna think about the shorter version. She's always a little bit scared, like I am, to put your hands out here on this handrail, especially being so close to that muzzle. But she loves shooting these. She doesn't like the fact that the stock is not adjustable, and I shouldn't say stock, it really is a brace. She likes the telescoping one where you have those different settings here. On the folding, you only get one option. She's also cross-eye dominant, and so when these are a little bit too long, it's a little bit harder for her to shoot. But I'm really excited to see how she does. I think she's going to shoot it really well, so let's find out. And as you can see, and as I suspected, she shot this thing really, really well. My wife is an awesome shot. She had no complaints about this whatsoever. The grip was very ergonomic for her. The only thing that she said that she would be a little bit concerned about, but it wasn't really a big deal, is that when you're holding up here at the mag well, because it has the gas block and that piston system, it does get a little bit warm. It will never get super hot like an AK-47 or an AR-15, but if you are using the mag well hold on these K guns, you might have a little bit of heat transfer from that gas block, and it might be a little bit uncomfortable if you have a very long range session where maybe you're putting 300 or 400 rounds through one of these. It's just something to mention, but it's not really a big deal whatsoever. All right, so the next thing I'm going to do is the quick magazine or the defensive use test. And so essentially on this test, I try to shoot the gun 10 or 11 rounds, change the magazine as fast as I possibly can. Now, this is something that I have always complained about when it comes to any MPX, including my own, and that is the design of these magazines. Number one, they're a little bit bigger than your standard MP5 magazines. They're made of polymer, and when they go into these AR-15 style receivers, they just kind of rub a little bit. They're a little bit hard to get in and out, and sometimes the magazines don't drop free. So if I push that magazine release button, yeah, it doesn't come out. See, I have to pull it out, and that's because there's a lot of friction inside of that lower. So if you are shooting one of these and have to drop that magazine real fast, you have to strip it out. So if your hand is up here on the handguard or you have a vertical foregrip, you have to remove that to get that magazine out. But one advantage to the magwell grip on a gun like this, if you're holding it, you can strip that out really fast, but it still is a little bit slower process than maybe you would like. MP5s are kind of the same as well. I kind of think that they should redesign this where those mags will simply drop out really fast. So this is probably going to slow me down just a little bit. But as for the speed of the gun, this trigger is really nice, so I think I'm going to be able to shoot it pretty fast, but the magazine change might be a little bit slow. So let's see how I do.
Yeah, I know.
Well, I definitely can't change the magazines out as fast as I would like. I definitely think having a charging handle up here to close the bolt, I think if the magazines dropped a little bit quicker and a little bit easier, that would make it nicer. But I'll tell you, I can shoot this gun really fast, and because of this mechanism, the rotating bolt, it's easy to keep all of the rounds on target as you saw. So I was shooting as fast as I possibly could. Everything hit the silhouette. I was pretty happy with that. Well, before I give you guys my final thoughts, having such an awesome gun like this, I just got to do a 35 round mag dump. Yeah, I know in today's ammo prices, it's a little bit expensive, but why not? This is simply a fun gun to shoot. So let me load up one of these magazines and let me just see how fast I can shoot it. And I gotta say, that is simply just a lot of fun. I can shoot this gun really fast. While I am not a professional shooter, I like to think that I can shoot these semi-auto firearms pretty darn fast, especially one with a nice trigger. This 10mm trigger, while it's not the stock one, is pretty nice. I think I can shoot the stock ones just as fast, and I do prefer the curved ones that are stock. I'm sure 10mm offers a curved one as well, but the only issues I've had with this gun, I think, are the aftermarket trigger, and I wouldn't have that issue with the stock Sig. Also, at 20 yards, it was super easy to keep all those rounds on target with the exception of one. And I was shooting as fast as I possibly could. So this gun is exceptionally accurate. And I think for any type of CQB or maybe a competition where you're going to be using pistol caliber carbines or subguns, this is honestly an awesome gun to use. It's extremely fast. It's extremely accurate. It's a lot of fun. It's easily controlled and has almost no recoil. It is just a very well built gun. So what are my final thoughts on the Sig Sauer MPX K? Well, I think you guys can already tell where I'm going to go with this range report. You guys know I already like the MPX. After all, I own one. I SBR'd it. I shoot it all the time, and it is one of my favorite guns of my collection. This is just a shorter version of it, and it is awesome. So much of the big gun translates into its smaller brother, and this gun is so much fun to shoot. Now, personally, I will tell you, if I could only own one of these, I would definitely go with the full size. I just like having that extra rail. The gun feels a little bit more robust to me, and having that extra couple of inches on the front really isn't that big of a deal. But if you want the shortest package, a PDW style MPX, I don't think you can go wrong with this whatsoever. I think they offer an even shorter version of this called the Rattler. I'd have to double check on that name. I think that is absolutely way too short. The K is definitely manageable, but I prefer the full size. But this gun, even though it is shorter, it is extremely accurate. It has all the part interchangeability with the big brother. You have all the options of the braces and stocks and all of the mounting options up here on the front. It accepts the same magazines, the same trigger groups. Everything about it is the same. It's just a little bit shorter. So this gun is a lot of fun. It's extremely accurate. I've already told you guys and already sang its praises. So I am really, really happy with it. There's just a few things about it that I wish that they would improve. I've already mentioned the magazines. Make those a little bit easier to come out. I wish they offered another charging option. Even if they wanted to keep the AR-15 style in the back, put something on the side or up here in the front like an MP5. I really like how HK does that. It's just very natural and ergonomic. And of course, in today's world, maybe make that ambidextrous so somebody that is a lefty can manipulate it with their non-shooting hand, which would be their right hand. You get all this Picatinny space here on the top for any type of mounting of optics, and this aimpoint acro is awesome with this MPX. So much fun. Yeah, just a great gun. Very accurate. Man, I really have nothing negative to say about this except those couple of small gripes. It was so much fun. So on my star system, how would I rate the Sig MPX? Well, I really think if this was in a stock configuration with the stock trigger, I would probably give it 4.75 stars out of 5. However, with the Timney trigger, I have to rate this gun as it sits on the bench. I know some people get on my case about that and say it's not fair. Well, I'm still going to give this 4.5 stars out of 5. Even though it wasn't a perfect review and I had 2 hiccups, I know that I could drop the stock trigger back in this thing and not have to worry about this. This gun is accurate, it is easy to take apart, it is easy to clean, it looks awesome, it's well built. I think it blows away many of its other competitors. I put this in the same level as an Hk MP5 and like a B&T APC 9, something in that category. It definitely fits there. It's not a low-end or low-tier gun. You get a lot of gun, well-built, well-designed for your money. These MPXs are awesome. If you don't have one, maybe think about going and getting one. If I had to rate this even compared to like a CZ Scorpion, I would go MPX all the way. It is definitely a high-end sub gun. So 4.5 stars. For the Sig MPX K. Thank you, D, for lending it to the channel. Just so much fun to shoot. And you guys need to go out and get one if you don't have one, or at least go to your range and rent one and see what you think. And if you can't afford a real Hk MP5 clone, well, this might be the way to go as well. Even though the prices on these are definitely going up over time. I think when I bought my original MPX, it was like $1,200. But they're not $1,200 anymore. These things have gone way up in price, but they're not at the $3,000 or $3,500 range as like an SP5 from HK, but I think you get just as good of a gun. So that is my range report and review on the Sig MPX K. What do you guys think? Do you own one of the variants? What do you guys think? Do you like shooting them? And are they fun? I would love to know in the comment section below. So, as always, thanks for watching. And beyond making custom grips for on this silhouette target and see how I do. So let's load up another